Complexity. Now, complexity means that we create these passwords. We need to kind of make them a little bit more difficult for an attacker to guess. Now, how we handle this is we typically use, at least in Microsoft's case, their requirement for complexity is that you have to use 3 of the following 4 options. And they're good options as far as a rule of thumb is concerned. The first option is obviously using uppercase characters in your password. Now, I wouldn't necessarily make all my characters uppercase. The computer might think I'm yelling at it. We also can use lowercase characters, and you can use those in any order. You don't have to start off with an uppercase and then end with lower cases or vice versa. We also can inject, with complexity, numbers. So at this point, we have what they refer to as an alphanumeric-based password. But I'll be honest with you guys, if this is the only 3 that you're using for your complexity, someone's going to pwn you eventually here. That's why we like special characters. Now, again, we have to be careful with these special characters because there's some assumptions end users make that attackers make as well. We'll talk about that here in just a second. One of my favorite special characters, though, that just drives attackers crazy is the spacebar. But any special characters will help you in creating complexity. Now, just because it's complex doesn't mean that you're safe, because you have to be careful. First of all, you have to be careful what we refer to as the Fab 5. And that's the characters, the @ sign, the $sign, the 3, the 0, and the exclamation point, which a lot of people try to, trick me, because I'll never guess that the $sign is representing S's or the 0's representing an O. Yeah. Trust me, I've got dictionaries and mechanisms that will help me to assume that. Remember, I told you there's this assumption that's being made? So be careful with the Fab 5. Don't think that something like this, open me up. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to guess that the 3 is an E. And so help me, if you do something like this, I will hurt you. Let me in? Really? Oh, my other favorite is open sesame. Yeah. You don't think that's on a dictionary? And I know, even though this is a really cool password, at least in my book, it's not going to fool anybody. Now, the reason why I always use that password up at the top here, this is the default password for all Microsoft labs in the training environment. And the reason why we use it is because Microsoft requires that 3 of the 4 complexity requirements are fulfilled, and this one does fulfill it. But again, folks, complexity isn't everything.
What do you mean by that, Dale?
Well, let me show you. Okay, so this is a tool that you can download. It's called the Password Recovery Time Simulator. It's a great proof of concept that I use all the time to show people how easy it is to brute force attack a password. Now, I told you complexity isn't everything. It's in the length. Now, first of all, do me a favor. I will include this program in the files download section of this courseware. I don't want you going to or getting tricked into going to a website and again, oh man, I'm going to hurt you. You do not go to a website that says type in your password. We'll tell you how secure it is because guess what? It's not secure anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how long it takes to brute force attack a password. Now, first of all, we never, ever, ever use real words because they're what we refer to as dictionaries out there. And we'll talk about those here in just a second, but basically it's exactly what it sounds like. It contains a bunch of words and oh man, I got tons of dictionaries for different subjects. But as an example, let's see, you know that I like Batman, so we'll put in here Batman rules. Okay, if I try to do this, if I try to brute force attack this, it is only going to take about 5 minutes to crack this password in a brute force attack because it's real words. In fact, if I wasn't that long, if it was just Batman, guess what? Yeah, it's instantaneous because that's going to be in a dictionary somewhere. Same thing with, let's see, my last name, Meredith. Yeah, it's instant. So when I try to teach end users, and I do a lot of community-based talks and seminars where I try to get across, because this is such a pet peeve for me, how to create complex passwords but still make them easy to remember for the end user. And let's face it, sometimes you're the end user. Well, this is how I do it. Let's use a syntax that we use daily now.
What do you mean by that, Dale?
Let me show you. You see, I'm using a DNS naming syntax, but because of the length and the special characters of the periods, guess what? This password takes a little bit longer to brute force attack. And hopefully my policy has me change my password before this many years goes by, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to follow an actual DNS syntax. In fact, I don't know, maybe I'll do M's because it's upside down W. Or maybe I'll throw in a capital in there. MMM dot I love craftsman tools.com or dot whatever. I don't care. It doesn't have to be a real website again. It can be anything you want. Matter of fact, let's do I love craftsman.tools. This one is extremely long, and I think we have to go through the time-space continuum, or at least get our DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour to go forward in time before this one's going to get cracked, at least through brute force. Now, just to prove the point here, again, it's all in the length. And I'll show you, watch. If I just do the dark, that's going to be relatively fast because it's a real word. But I'm going to start adding some characters. KNI, let's see what I'm at. That's 3 characters. There we go. We're up to 11 seconds. We'll add a G. 5 minutes. H, 2 hours. T, 2 days. Watch what happens on the dot. Those special characters are golden. In fact, let's add a space and go com. So again, it's in the length as well as the special characters. I mean, if I just back this up, so there is no, if I just leave the com in here, you'll notice it does take a while, but not as long as that special character. Now, again, I'm going to preference this. This is only based off of brute force attacking a password, meaning I'm going to try every possible combination. And again, to prove the point as far as it's in the length, if I go back here and do a 3 dark instead of an E, again, it's not long enough. The special characters aren't long enough. Again, the length plus the special characters doesn't give me enough. Even if I do this, it's because the length is too short. And we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. So if I continue this, we'll do a capital K, I, or KN. Calculate that one. There we go, 16 hours. Let's see, instead of an I, we'll do the number 1. 64 days. You see what's happening? The other issue that we have is that people use the same password over and over and over. Major mistake.